Hello my friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. If you're watching this, it means I finally got through some of the recent tech issues. Anywho. These cards are for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, of which I'm the host, and because of the tech issues, I didn't get my cards up when the post went up. Typical. Anyway. I started off with cutting a couple of A2 sized panels from a couple different colors of cardstock. I used Simon Says Stamps Cotton Candy and Lawn Fawn's Sage Leaf cardstock. And I pulled out this variety pack of Glimmer foil. It's all like pastel colors. This came out a few months ago. Like, it's recent. I'm not sure when. And then I've been hoarding it like I do with everything. And they're pretty. I wasn't expecting, I don't know what it was I was expecting. The transparency of the foil is different. And they're like I would call it more of like a satin finish than, the foil metallic, the gold that I always use on everything. It's really pretty. So this is the first time I was using it. So I do what I always do. I got my cardstock ready. I cut down the foil I wanted to use. So I used like the kind of peachy pink color from the pack and then this like minty sort of green. And I used just little tiny pieces of the narrowest Spellbinders tape to tape the foil to the cardstock. It just holds everything in place. And I also tape my foil plate. And I'm using the Trinity Stamps foiled burst hot foil plate. And I already had my Glimmer hot foil machine heating up, ready to go. So it had the solid green light. And then I put everything onto the machine as I showed, press the timer button, takes about a minute to heat up. Once that second green light stops flashing and goes solid, put the whole thing through my Platinum 6 machine. And then I peeled off the foil and it is pretty. I purposely wanted a little bit more subtle. That's why I went like tone on tone basically. But oh man, I'm getting more ideas. It's really pretty, you guys. I need to make a point of like playing more with like I have like I think almost every, if not every color of Spellbinders Glimmer foils, and yet I always reach for gold. But anyway, so that was the first one, and then I just repeated the process with the second one, taped the plate in place, and pressed the timer. Once the timer went off, I just run it slowly through my Platinum 6 die cut machine. And then same thing, remove the plate. And again, it's just pretty. Gold would have looked amazing too, especially with like the way that like and the cards are. But these are just really pretty. And I don't know, this stuff's I need to play because there's two other colors in this pack. And ideas. Anywho, back to these cards. So for my like main images, I'm using the World's Greatest stamp set from Trinity. This was also part of their April, because it's May now, the April release, which I did a release and review on a couple weeks ago, and I'll link to that at the end of this video if you haven't seen it. So I have a couple pieces of Distress watercolor paper. I'm putting them in my Misty. I have it smooth side up. And I'm using my anti-static powder tool on them. These images don't need to be heat embossed, but one, old habits die hard, and two, I just like having heat embossed images when it comes to watercoloring because they're literally like bumper pads. It makes it easier on me. I don't have to pay as much attention. I don't have to worry about things bleeding. It just keeps everything contained. So I was inking up the images with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. This is also why I heat emboss, because this ink does take a little bit longer to dry. It's oil based. It's my go-to for watercolor and whatnot. But that's also why I heat emboss it, because pretty much guaranteed if I don't heat emboss it, I will manage to smear it. It just is what it is. So I'm doing 2 cards as always, because why not? Plus I was curious with that, foil to see what was what. So I stamped everything twice and covered it in clear embossing powder. And then I'll melt that with my heat tool until everything is smooth, shiny, melted fabulousness. So after I get these melted, I'm going to do very, very simple watercoloring using Distress Oxide inks. And I'm also going to use some metallic ink as well, but I'll get to that in a second. I started with my oxide inks. And I'm really glad I did this. I wasn't sure because I wanted to paint these trophies like gold. But most gold metallic inks are like the watercolors, like the Gonzai Tommy that I'm going to use, that I use for splatter in like every other video. They don't have like dyes in them. It's more just the metallic parts. So I was thinking for once, and I painted a base onto these trophies, and I used a mixture of mustard seed distress oxide ink and a little bit of wild honey. And I'm just painting that on with my little water brush. I'd smushed the inks onto one of my little craft sheets. I have multiples of these, but any non-porous surface, I can even use because my work surface that you guys see is glass, so you can smush on there. I try to avoid doing that because, again, for whatever reason, my brain just won't comprehend that, and I'll put my elbow in it. So craft sheet, any non-porous type thing to smush your ink pads onto works great. So mustard seed, wild honey for the trophies and the little label there. The base, I used walnut stain. And then my Gonzai Tommy watercolors that 99.9% of the time just get used for splatter. But this time I'm going to paint with them. And on camera, as always, it looks worse than it really is. I don't know why it does this to me. I swear, it's like a personal vendetta. Anyway, it doesn't look this streaky, yet at the same time, these are very difficult to get like a perfectly smooth look. You can kind of layer them, but these are water reactive, so it's not the easiest. That said, in real life, they don't look like this. But yeah, if you're really concerned about it, you could add a second layer. I wasn't, because again, in real life it looks better. Plus I'm adding a sentiment on top, all that sort of a thing. And I just painted. So added water, swirled it around with my paintbrush, and then painted the trophy and the little label with this gold watercolor. And it's going to make it look shiny and fabulous and like a trophy. So after I painted those, I'm just going to set them aside and let those completely dry. And then I'm going to paint the little flower sprigs that I had stamped and heat embossed as well with the same ink, clear embossing powder, etc. And I'm going to pull down my craft sheet there again, and I'm going to use some other colors of Distress Oxide inks. So I'm going to use some Squeeze Lemonade, a little bit of Evergreen Bough, and some Kitsch Flamingo. And again, just using my little water brush for this. Super, super simple. I use Squeeze Lemonade and a tiny bit of mustard seed just to kind of darken little areas on these flowers. But for the most part, it's just filling in the open spaces. Like just the way this like little cluster of flowers and greenery is, you don't really need to worry about it. Like layering and all that, a person totally could, and I'm sure they could make it look amazing. But I just wanted to add color. Keep it simple, you know, don't overthink it. So I used the Squeeze Lemonade and the little bit of mustard seed for the like kind of two main flowers. And then I added a bit of the Kitsch Flamingo to that little third rose there. And then I also added a bit of walnut stain to the one little sprig, even though it's leaves. I just wanted to bring in a little bit more of the brown. Because again, I'm going for the color throwdown challenge, sticking with the colors, doing my thing. And then for the rest of the greenery, Evergreen Bough, which that's also why I purposely went with the oxide inks, because they're, you know, creamier and some of them lean towards more like the pastel shades in a sense. And that was perfect for this color combo. So, and plus they paint. It's been a minute since I have, you know, done any watercoloring with oxide inks. And I was like, oh yeah, I love these. So let those dry as well. And then now I'm going to start die cutting everything. So I'm using one of the Trinity stamps, Clean Cut Layers A2 rectangles. I think this was the second biggest in that pack, to die cut my backgrounds because I want them to be slightly smaller than my A2 card bases. And then for all the images I watercolored, I'm going to use the coordinating wafer die set to die cut everything. And I'm going to tape all of the wafer dies into place with just little bits of washi tape that will prevent the dies from shifting when I run them through my die cut machine. Because like I always say, there's nothing worse than you spend all the time coloring something and then you die cut it and the die moved and then you like cut a chunk of your image off, you know, frustrating. So got all my dies in place, and a person could have, like, I had thought about it, like the sentiments, like stamping them directly, like especially the world's greatest sentiment, that will fit right on like the trophy. But I decided to do that separately and then die cut it so I could pop it up with a little bit, you know, to give a little more dimension to everything in the end. And while I was doing this, I was like, oh man, you could like mix and match so many things. Like the set has dad, mom, and friend. So world's greatest friend, world's greatest mom, world's greatest dad. But then I was like, you could do like coach, teacher cards. Totally. Like I'm sure Trinity Stamps has, you know, like any sentiment set with teacher, friend, sister, brother, etc., 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 alphabets to like spell out someone's name. With this, I was like, ooh, that could make some really cute cards. Anywho, on the inside of the cards, I am using the Simply Sentimental Mom stamp set, as well as this one with the dad word. This one's not available yet. It's coming soon. Trinity's May release. Sneak peeks have already started. So this is the Simply Sentimental Dad set. So I pulled the dad word from that one. So I won't have a link to it at the moment, but just give me a few days when it's officially released. So I inked up the mom and the dad words with the Kitsch Flamingo and the Evergreen Bow inks. And then the little companion sentiment is from that Simply Sentimental Mom set. And I stamped that with the Versifying Claire Nocturne. And everything's now die cut, stamped, ready to go. So all I got to do is assemble. So for the main images, I am using foam squares. And I cut some of them down. And then when you remove the backing from both sides, you can curve them and fit them around pretty much anything. So I did that for the little, you know, arms on the trophy there. And then the little sprig of flowers, I just put a little bit of craft tacky glue just along the bottom of that to adhere it to the back of the top of the trophy. And then I'm going to pop some foam squares behind that as well before I stick this to the card front. So this was why I went with those like pastel glimmer foils. Again, subtle, and yet saying this, like gold would have looked amazing. I've been trying to do things a little differently every once in a while instead of doing the same old. So anyway, pop that into place. The sentiments I popped up with just thin foam squares to give it a little bit of dimension. So pop that into place, and then I'm going to repeat the exact same process on the second card front. No point in filming that because it's literally the exact same thing. So once I've got everything popped into place, I'm going to adhere this to my card base with craft tacky glue. I double checked, made sure I was adhering the right card front to the right card base. Once I got that into place, I'm going to add a little bit of bling. Again, I thought about splatter, but I decided not to. I know, shocking, but splatter will make its way onto every other card as always, so it's not a big deal. But for my embellishments, I used vintage mason jar for the dad card, and these are more mint green, but this specific like group of embellishments from Trinity, they're slightly transparent, so they kind of go with just about everything within reason. So I used that for the green one, and then for the pink one I used rose tinted glasses, which I think I've used up like half of that container already. I reach for these all the time. They're so pretty. Anyway, adhered those into place with dabs of craft tacky glue. Once those are adhered, these cards will be complete. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll have a link to that release and review video that I had posted a couple weeks ago, and I'll have that at the end of this video. I will have my blog post linked below this video, and in the blog post, I'll link to the Color Throwdown Challenge, so you guys can check it out if you're interested, because we do it just for fun. Everyone's welcome to play along. There's a new one every week. And then, of course, I'll have links to all the supplies, etc. That will also be directly below the video, so you can just expand the description box if you are interested in any of that. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. Legit, it helps. It tells those robot overlords you guys like what you're seeing, and it kind of pushes the videos out a bit more. It makes a huge difference, and I appreciate it. So if you haven't subscribed, I'd love if you did that too. And yeah, I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.